Hey, what's up, guys? Today we got another bracketology. We're gonna be filling out another bracket. Joe Lenardi's bracket's the one I use for those that don't know. And yeah, we've seen quite a bit. There's been quite a bit of changes. We've seen teams like Washington State make big jumps. We've seen some teams take a couple fall a couple seed lines. And so with that being said, let's jump into it. All right, so we got Purdue versus Merrimack Norfolk State. Purdue should have no issues here. I don't think we're going to see another 16-1 for Purdue. This is a different type of Purdue team. Now we got Boise State versus Florida Atlantic. Florida Atlantic has been, they've been struggling more recently. And Boise State's they're coming off 3 wins in a row. I like this Boise State team generally. I like the defense that they play. They play a really good defense. There's a solid squad all around. But Florida Atlantic is extremely good on the neutral court. They were fantastic in the early season tournaments this year. We know what they did in last year's March Madness, going all the way to the Final Four. So they've proven to be a really good neutral court team. And even though they haven't been as good recently, I still think this Florida Atlantic team, we know they got lots of talent. So I like Florida Atlantic to get by because they've just shown that they can play really well in the neutral court. Now we got Washington State and Samford. Mentioned at the beginning of the video, Washington State jumped from an 8 seed in last week's video. Now they're a 5 seed, coming off a big win against Arizona. Then they actually dropped a game to Arizona State, but they still rose 3 seeds, which is pretty big. But they're squaring off against Samford, who is 25-4, and one of their 4 losses is against Purdue, and I think the first game of the season. So this is a Samford team that's really good. This is a really good 12 seed team here. I think this would be a trendy 12/5 for the person that, I think for certain people that don't maybe know Washington State, but Washington State is extremely big. Like they're the tallest team in college basketball. And I think 6'3", 6'8", 6'9", 6'8", 6'11". I think that's their starting lineup, which is crazy tall. And Samford, they start 2 guards that are 5'8" and 6 foot. I think Rylan Jones, 6 foot. He transferred in this year. And so I just like Wazoo for their size in this one. They're playing really good basketball recently. They've been fantastic in the Pac-12. Have a great shot of winning the Pac-12 this year in the final season of the Pac-12. But I just like Wazoo's size. Wazoo's got too much size. I think they get by Samford. Samford, though, could pull off an upset against a lot of other teams. They're a little undersized in the backcourt, so they need to play a smaller team, I think. Now we got Baylor and Vermont. Baylor has had solid season all the way through, and Vermont's always a threat to pull up an upset. But I like Baylor to win this one. I think Baylor just has. I like the options that Baylor has. If one guy's having a bad night, and somebody else can step up. Raekwon Dennis is always a threat. Jacoby Walter, Nunn's been great recently. So that's just like the thing about Baylor. They just always have a plethora of guards they can go to. So if one isn't playing that great, another one usually steps up. And Jalen Bridges, has been fantastic this year too. So I like Baylor. A lot of options to go to. All right, so now we got Dayton versus Seton Hall of Virginia. Dayton has not been looking as good recently. They had a stretch where they're looking fantastic there for a while. Not looking as good, but in conference play, every good team's gonna have a little stretch where they're not looking as impressive. Versus Seton Hall of Virginia. Virginia looked really anemic offensively against North Carolina, but North Carolina is a good offensive team or a good defensive team, and Virginia is not a very good offensive team. So we saw how that worked out. They only put up 44. But I like Seton Hall. I like what Seton Hall's been doing. I'm a big fan of Kadari Richmond. Daw's been good too. So I like Seton Hall to get by Virginia, and this feels like a good 11/6 upset here. I like Seton Hall to beat Dayton in this one. All right, so now we got Alabama versus High Point. Just the way Alabama plays is always a little bit of a concern to me, just with the reliance on the 3 ball. But man, they're just too talented this year. I think they shouldn't have a problem against High Point, but you never know. But I'm gonna go Bama though. Then we got Texas Tech versus Nevada. We know Nevada's an experienced team. Texas Tech's having a great year under first-year coach Grant McCaslin from North Texas. This one's close. I could go either way with this one. I'm gonna go Nevada here though, just because I do like the experienced backcourt. And I mentioned it today in my predictions videos for today's games. Like Pop Isaacs, he's their leading scorer, but he hasn't been very good for Texas Tech. So if this game was played right now, especially, I like Nevada to win. Just if Pop Isaacs isn't going to come out of the slump, I think he's going to come out of it soon, but we're going to go Nevada. All right, so we got Marquette versus Sam Houston. I'm gonna go Marquette here. Shouldn't be an issue. Now this video I'm gonna do each region at a time. My last video I kind of bounced around. This video I'm gonna do one region at a time. So now we got Purdue versus Florida Atlantic. I think Florida Atlantic can keep this close for a while. But if Golden gets into any type of foul trouble for Florida Atlantic, Edey will just probably feast on the inside. So, or they'll double Edey, and then the guards, should get a lot of good looks. And Purdue's guards are pretty good from behind the three. So I'm gonna go Purdue here though. Now we got Wazoo versus Baylor. Been a fantastic year for Wazoo. I don't see them beating Baylor though. They have that good size and everything. I think they'll get by Samford. But against Baylor, Scott Drew, he's been in these moments. I think Scott Drew will draw up a game plan. I think the length could bother Baylor a little bit, but I think Baylor's a little more talented. So I like Baylor to get by Wazoo. Now we got Seton Hall for Virginia, or Seton Hall is who I'm picking. So let's go Seton Hall versus Bama. Bama, we talked about the reliance on the three ball. I don't love that for the tournament that much. I like teams that can, do a little bit more, do a little bit of both. They got a lot of guys that can score. I like Estrada a lot. Sears is great. But I like the upset here. 11 seeds always do a little bit of damage in March. Seton Hall has proven that they can beat the top talent in the country. They've beaten UConn. I think they beat Creighton too, didn't? No, they lost to Creighton in triple overtime. They beat some really good teams though. They know how to beat the top level talent. And so I think Seton Hall is a team that can pull off an upset. And just with the way Bama plays, sometimes Bama's on fire and nothing you can do about it. But if Bama has a cold night, and they're definitely prone to an upset, so I'm going to go Seton Hall to upset Bama. Now we got Nevada and Marquette. I like Nevada. Nevada's a solid squad, but I think Marquette's got too much, led by Kolek and Iguodaro, Cam Jones. Too much talent on the Marquette team. All right, so let's go up to the top. We got Purdue, Baylor. Great matchup. Got a lot of good guards in this matchup, but I'm gonna stick with Purdue here. I think Purdue is gonna have this bounce back year. It just feels almost like 2019 with Virginia coming back from losing to a 16 seed. It just has that feel to me. Not that I necessarily think they're gonna win it all, but I think they're gonna this is Purdue's year to at least make a run. So I'm going Purdue. Now we got Seton Hall versus Marquette. Big East battle here. I could go with Seton Hall here for another upset, but that just feels like a little too much for Seton Hall. I like Marquette here, though. I mean, anytime you're led by a point guard like Tyler Kolek in March, you have a big advantage over the other team. So with Kolek and Iguodaro as the big man, they just got too much talent, I think. I like Marquette. So that sets up a 1 versus 2 seed matchup. Purdue, Marquette, one we saw early in the year and went down to the wire. Purdue beat Marquette in that one, in a close one. I just mentioned how I think Purdue is going to make a run, and this qualifies as a run. But this is the game that everyone's gonna have their eyes on. If they get to the Elite Eight, it's like, can they get over the hump? Can they get to the Final Four? I've had them get to a couple Final Fours before, but I can easily see them dropping a game in the Elite Eight too. They're like maybe just not able to get over the hump one more time. And Marquette would be a team that definitely could beat Purdue in the Elite Eight. So I'm gonna go Marquette to do it. I think Marquette matches up pretty well against Purdue, and that's why they played such a good game earlier in the year in the Maui. All right, so let's go down here to the bottom left. We got Arizona, Little Rock or Grambling State. Arizona, obviously. Now we got TCU versus Michigan State. I could go either way on that one. This one just because, Michigan State's been dropping some games, but Michigan State always is good in March. I like TCU's team quite a bit too. So So this one's a little bit tough. I'm gonna go TCU though in a close one. I think this TCU is just more balanced. Um, if Michigan State starts playing Booker more, the big man, I think Michigan State will be better. Their front court is so weak right now, Michigan State. I just think TCU is a much more balanced squad. I just have a little more faith in TCU at this moment. Though Booker starts to play more for Michigan State, and I could definitely change my mind on that one. Now we got Kentucky versus Richmond. Kentucky's starting to figure things out right now. They dropped that game to LSU, but I feel like in general they're trending up right now. They're figuring things out. The offense can be special at times. Like they're capable of being special. They just put up 117 points against Bama. It's a team that has the potential to go far in March. I like their potential, so I'm going to go Kentucky over Richmond. Now we got San Diego State, UC Irvine. We saw this matchup earlier in the year, and UC Irvine had a lead late in that game. They ended up losing by 1 point to San Diego State. I think we're going to see an upset here. San Diego State is going to go from championship last year, first round upset this year. I like UC Irvine. UC Irvine is a really good team out of the Big West too. They are, and I think San Diego State sometimes offensively struggles to score the ball. So UC Irvine, I think, has a good shot of pulling that upset off. Now we got South Carolina versus Providence or Gonzaga. I don't know who I think would win between Providence and Gonzaga, really. I'm going to say Gonzaga beats Providence in a close one. I like Gonzaga more and more recently. They're starting to play better. They just don't have any depth is my issue with Gonzaga and believing they'll go very far. So I'm going to go Gonzaga versus South Carolina. And then just the physical nature that South Carolina plays with. I think, even though I'm sometimes not overly impressed with South Carolina when I watch them play, but they do play their physical team. So, and Gonzaga has no depth. So if Gonzaga gets in any type of foul trouble, that leads me to believe South Carolina will win. So I'm going to go South Carolina over Gonzaga. Now we got Duke versus Cornell. Don't know too much about Cornell this year, so I'm gonna go Duke to win that one. Now, Utah State, Texas. This one's super fun. I think it's a fun matchup. Utah State's a fun team to watch in general. They're having a heck of a year. Texas, I'm never super impressed when I watch them play. I thought, the backcourt of Max Abmas and Tyrese Hunter would be better than it has been. It's not great. Dessou has been great at times this year, and I think he could pose some matchup issues for Utah State because he's a tough guard. Because he can step out, shoot the three. I don't know, my gut's telling me Utah State here. I just like what Utah State's done. Danny Sprinkle's done an amazing job. He should win Coach of the Year probably. So I'm going to go Utah State. Now we got Kansas, Eastern Washington. This is a shorthanded Kansas team. We'll see what McCullough's availability is down the stretch. But either way, I think Kansas should be able to get by Eastern Washington. Now, let's go up to... Actually, let's stay at Kansas, Utah State, because this is a game when I was thinking about this bracket, and I'm like, in the way it's set up, this is where I really think we see a big-time upset is here. Because, well, there's a couple interesting things. You have Grant Azabor for Utah State matching up against Dickinson. That's a really fun inside matchup. And then you have two pass-first point guards in DeJuan Harris and Darius Brown. So those are fun matchups. And you have Fazlov for Utah State, Furphy. I actually think there's a lot of comparisons between Kansas and Utah State this year, more than probably you think off the top of your head. They're actually sort of similar in a lot of ways. But I'm leaning towards Utah State because if McCullough isn't healthy down the stretch, and we just don't know, because I read something Bill Self said, he's not sure, it's a week-to-week issue. Sometimes McCullough, I don't exactly know, he didn't really give great examples, but he might be out for the foreseeable future, or at least banged up. So I'm going to go Utah State with the upset over Kansas. And I think that could be a really fun game because there's a lot of similarities, a lot of similar type players on both squads. Now we got Duke versus South Carolina. I'm going to go Duke here. I just don't think South Carolina this year, they're having a fantastic year, but I don't know. I just think Duke has more like every position, really. Now we got Kentucky, UC Irvine. I could see a UC Irvine upset here. I really could, because Kentucky has played down to the competition at times this year. and their defense has been really lacking at times. But I'm not going to pull off the major. I think I'm going to say Kentucky wins because just when Kentucky's clicking offensively, they are really hard to beat. So let's go Kentucky. Now we got Arizona and TCU. Arizona, I want to really like this squad, but they've burned me in the past in the tournament, and it's just hard for me to believe in them right now to make a big run in March. I think it's a really good Arizona team, but I think TCU has a good chance to beat them. TCU is just a really well-balanced squad. They don't rely on one guy. They have good depth, which is really important for March in case foul trouble. And a couple years ago, if you remember, TCU and Arizona, and they faced off. Very different teams for both teams, but TCU should have won that game. There was a bad call in that one late. I can't remember exactly how it went down. I think they missed a foul call against Arizona. I'm pretty sure that's how it went down. But either way, I think TCU can pull off the upset and beat Arizona, which sets us up with a 8 seed versus 5 seed in the Sweet 16, which I think we're going to see a lot of weird seed matchups just because of the parity in college basketball right now is so great. I think we're going to see a lot of odd matchups like that. You're going to see some 8s versus 5s and some 4 versus 7s and stuff like that. I think we're going to see that, or 3 versus 7s. But yeah, so we got TCU, Kentucky in a fun one. This one I could see going either way just because I don't know how much I can believe in Kentucky's lack of defense this year. So I'm going to go with another one. We got an 8 seed TCU beating Kentucky. I just like the balance. This is a balanced, solid squad. So now we got Duke, Utah State. I think the run ends here for Utah State. I just think Duke has too many options. I think Duke will get by them, which sets us up with Duke versus TCU to get to the Final Four. I think it's been a great run from TCU. I think they're going to lose in this one just because of the experience. Duke is an experienced squad compared to typical Duke teams. They have a good mixture of freshmen, sophomores, juniors. Not a lot of seniors, but more experience than normal. And so I'm going Duke over TCU in a close one, setting up Duke and Marquette in the Final Four. Let's go top right. Now we got UConn versus Eastern Kentucky. UConn should have no issue there. Now I got Oklahoma, Northwestern. I talked about Boo Buie a lot in the last video. I love Boo Buie. He's one of my favorite players to watch. And I'm going to say he can get it done again. Oklahoma has not been playing their best basketball. They pulled out that win in the rivalry against Oklahoma State on Saturday, which was huge because they would have dropped that game. It was a road game, but still they would have kept sliding down because Oklahoma's been kind of in a slide down. They're kind of trending down right now. I like Northwestern to beat Oklahoma though. Now Wisconsin, McNeese State. This has all the makings of a classic 12-5 upset. McNeese State's playing tremendous. I think they're top 50 or top 70 in the net right now. It's they're really high in the net. Will Wade's done a crazy good job with them. And Wisconsin, I've mentioned in the past, their offense just isn't, at times it just looks discombobulated. They just don't score well at times, which isn't good for March. So this feels like a classic 12-5 to me, and I'm going to take it. I'm going to take McNeese State over Wisconsin. Now we got Auburn versus Appalachian State. I like this Auburn team this year. I don't think they're going to get upset in this one. Now we got St. Mary's and South Florida, two of the hottest teams in college basketball squaring off. South Florida is on a big-time win streak. So is St. Mary's. These really are two of the hottest teams in college basketball. I could see this one going either way. St. Mary's plays at an extremely slow pace. South Florida shoots the 3 ball pretty well. I don't know. This one's tough. I'm going to go St. Mary's, though. Randy Bennett is a fantastic coach. I like St. Mary's to get by this one. I just think they slow the pace down to a screeching halt, and I think that bothers South Florida because they're not used to playing at a pace that, as long as St. Mary's is able to dictate their pace, I think they have the advantage in this one. Now we got Iowa State and Oakland. I had Oakland pulling off an upset against Baylor last week. I don't think they pull an upset against Iowa State. I just think the defense is too good for Iowa State. They're just too tenacious of a squad. I think it would pose a lot of issues for Oakland. We'll go Iowa State. Then we got BYU, New Mexico. This is to me an awesome 7-10 matchup. I mean, there's a lot to like about this matchup. New Mexico has a trio of guards that are all extremely fun to watch. Dent, House, and Mashburn. They're all super fun to watch. BYU, just their style of play, getting up and down the court, shooting a lot of threes. If you like to see threes, BYU be your favorite team. Probably they're second in the nation in three-point attempts. This should just be fun. There's a lot to like in this game. I think BYU has done more against tournament level teams than New Mexico has. So I think BYU is a little more prepared for this game than New Mexico is. I like BYU to win this one, but it would be one of the best 7-10 matchups. I think it could be like a classic. If it goes the way I think it could. Now we got UNC and Colgate. I could see Colgate keeping it close just because UNC offensively struggles at times, but RJ Davis, when you need a bucket, he's that guy. So I'm going to go UNC in that one. Now let's go to the top, UConn, Northwestern. I had Northwestern making that Final Four run last week. I don't see them being able to beat UConn though. I'm gonna be honest. So UConn to get by Northwestern. Now we got McNeese State versus Auburn. This one's tough. I like McNeese State. I like what they've done. They could pull off a Cinderella run. They have that type of team, but Will Wade, maybe not the best character-wise, but he is a really good coach. He's a good team builder. But I like Auburn. I'm going Auburn to pull off that win there. Now we got St. Mary's and Iowa State. What a defensive, slow-paced slugfest this would be. I just think Iowa State plays with the defensive intensity that St. Mary's isn't even used to, and the West Coast Conference doesn't prepare you like the Big 12 prepares you for March. So I'm gonna go Iowa State here to get that one done. But it would be a slow defensive grind. I would enjoy that game. I think some people wouldn't as much, but I really enjoy it. Now we got BYU versus UNC. This one's hard. I think BYU, the way they play, can really work well in March as long as they don't become over reliant on the three. But I'm going to go UNC here. They've done enough as time has gone on to make me where I really start to believe. Because I was a doubter on UNC for a while. I'm still not sold on them maybe being like a Final Four team just yet. But I think they'll get by BYU, I think. It'll be a good one though. I don't know. Depends. If BYU gets hot, they could win. All right, so we got UNC, Iowa State. This one's tough, but I still like Iowa State more than I like UNC. I think Iowa State is just really good, especially the emergence of Curtis Jones off the bench. Gilbert's been fantastic. Lipsy's one of the best point guards in the country. It's just Mamalovic has been great too. I don't know. I think Iowa State's just tougher. Honestly, I just believe in them more. Now we got UConn versus Auburn. Even with that UConn loss against Creighton, it was bound to happen at some point. You're going to slip up. I still believe in this UConn team a ton. So I'm going to go UConn. Now we got UConn, Iowa State. I think Iowa State can cause UConn issues for a while. I think UConn has more offense than Iowa State, though. More guys they can go to. And Klingon would be a tough matchup for them. Because that's what helped Creighton so much against UConn. Because Klingon or Kalkbrenner could kind of neutralize Klingon, because Klingon's normally like a big advantage for UConn. He'd probably be pretty dang good. Even though Iowa State's bigs are great defenders. King's a great defender. Ward's a really good defender. So I definitely think you neutralize them. I'm going to go UConn in a close one, though. Part of me even wants to go Iowa State here, but I'm going to go UConn. All right, so now we got Houston versus South Dakota State. Houston should get by no problem. Mississippi State, Nebraska. You know what? I did it last video, and I want to do it again. I want Nebraska to get their first tournament win. Mississippi State isn't great. Mississippi State really relies on defense. So, if they might not even just be able to score enough in that game anyway. So I'm gonna go Nebraska. Now we got Clemson, Grand Canyon. I love Clemson and their size. I like Clemson and their size. I think they're gonna be a solid 5 seed. I don't think they'll be upset in that one. Now we got Illinois versus Akron. John Gross is Akron's coach now. He used to be Illinois' coach as well. Well, he was Akron's coach before Illinois too, but I'm going Illinois. I think just too much talent for Illinois. Now we got Florida, Indiana State. I'm really liking what I'm seeing out of Florida recently. I love their guards. Like their guards are very fun to watch. Poland and Clayton, and they're good. This Florida team, I was really thinking they were going to beat Bama the other day. I was kind of hoping they were going to beat them as well. They didn't pull it out, but I like this Florida team. I'm going to go Florida over Indiana State. Now Creighton versus Charleston. Creighton has a lot of guys they can go to. When Creighton's clicking, they're hard to beat. I think the potential on Creighton is great, so I'm going Creighton. Now we got Colorado State versus Wake Forest. Wake Forest finally got that first quad on win against Duke on Saturday, which ended in the whole Filipowski, drama. But I like what Wake Forest can potentially do. Hunter Salas has been fantastic. Hildreth's great. Monsanto, when he gets going, he's a flamethrower from the outside. And Colorado State can be a little one-dimensional sometimes. They don't have as many weapons as Wake Forest does, so I'm going Wake Forest. Now we got Tennessee versus Fairfield. Tennessee should get by that pretty easy. Houston, Nebraska. I think we see Nebraska season end here. Houston is just a different type of tough to play against. The defense is unreal. So I'm going to go Houston. Now we got Clemson versus Illinois. I think Illinois is getting to the second weekend this year. I think Illinois is going to make it to the Sweet 16. I'm going to say they beat Clemson in a good battle. I think that's a pretty good matchup for Illinois, though, because Illinois is also Illinois would be taller than Clemson, and Clemson's got some good size, but Illinois, I think, can get by Clemson. Now we got Florida versus Creighton. That's a fun matchup. Really fun matchup. I could see it going either way. Creighton had a weird week last week. They beat UConn, but then they lost by 14 to St. John's. I'm gonna go Florida. I can't give a good reason on it, but Creighton has been a little inconsistent at times this year. I could see Creighton make it to the Final Four as well. Like that just shows you. I don't know. I kind of want to switch it up. I had Creighton making a run last week. I want Florida this week. Now we got Tennessee versus Wake Forest. I don't know. I think this Tennessee team has a real good chance to win it all. So they're gonna beat Wake Forest, I think. Now we got Houston versus Illinois. As much as I want to see Illinois, I'm an Illinois fan as well, and so I'd like to see Illinois make a run. I just don't see us beating Houston. I got to be honest. This Illinois team, I don't know if they're tough enough, to be honest, to beat Houston. But so I'm going Houston. Then we got Florida versus Tennessee, and I'm gonna go Tennessee. Biggest reason why is Dalton Connect. He is probably my favorite player in college basketball right now. Just the takeover ability that he has, I think, is going to save Tennessee in at least one or two March Madness games. So I'm going Tennessee. Now we got Houston versus Tennessee in the Elite Eight. We got a 1 versus 2 seed here. I don't know, this one's hard, but Connect is that guy. I think this could be a Connect legacy game. I think he's a tough matchup for anyone. It'll be tough for Connect to get into the lanes like he wants to sometimes, but he's a 3-level scorer. He can score at all 3 levels. So I'm going to go Tennessee. So now we got UConn versus Tennessee in the Final Four, and we got Marquette and Duke on the other side. So I had Tennessee win it all last week, but I said I easily could see it being UConn just as well. So I'm going to go on the flip side, UConn beating Tennessee. It's a fun matchup though. Jonas Adu, he can hold his own against Klingon. I forgot Amaka. I think he's Amaka off the bench. They just have a lot of physical bigs as well. So I think they match up well. I had Tennessee win it last week. I'm going to flip it UConn because it's a 50-50 game. So we're going to have UConn win this one. What a matchup, though. That'd be like one of the cooler Final Four matchups in my eyes. Then we got Marquette and Duke. And I do like Marquette at times, but I don't know. Duke, I feel like this year, the way this bracket, came out, they came out of the region of chaos, and then they got a week to prepare for Marquette. And I don't really think we're going to see a Big East national championship game, so I'm going Duke to beat Marquette. So we got Duke and UConn. in the championship. And then if that comes true, I think UConn will beat Duke by a good, 8 to 10, 8 to 12 points. Because I like this Duke team, but I don't think they're good enough to beat UConn. So we got UConn winning it all in this week's bracketology video. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys think. Had a little region of chaos with Duke coming out of it, which was interesting. So, yeah, we got UConn winning it all. Let me know how you guys think, and I'll see you guys in the next one.